It's gone, or at least it's about to be. We've got an August problem, folks. We're going to get into that here in just a minute. If you are interested in the weather, you are in the right place. As I always say, you may not like the forecast, although you're going to probably like this one, but you will leave smarter than when you came. That is my promise to you. And if you want to know about the weather, there are three things that you need to know as we head into the weekend. Thing number one has to do with the tropics. There's a lot of noise going on about the tropics. When are they going to get active in the Atlantic? Well, we're going to find out, and I'll set the record straight here right now with thing number one, the tropics. Okay, we're looking at the satellite image this morning, and again, this is our big area that we're concerned about. Southeast coast, Gulf of cold rain, the Caribbean Ocean, and down here in the MDR. And as you can see right here, there is just not all that much going on. A couple of little waves out here in the central Atlantic, another wave coming off of the coast of Africa. Additional waves are lined up in the wave train, ready to move off into the coast, off the coast into the Atlantic and get going. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, the conditions out here have been hostile and unfavorable. We've got dry air, we've got sinking air, two ingredients that tropical systems do not like. We've got wind shear, that's the third. That's going to subside, but look at these little waves here. They're going into the Pacific. The Pacific is in fuego with just abundant tropical activity. This is the wind shear forecast, anomaly forecast. It shows you, as I've shown the last couple of days, where wind shear is expected to be above normal and below normal. If you want to see tropical activity develop, you need this to be below normal. That would be the blues and the whites, or near normal at least. And so here's what we've got as we go on out in time through the weekend. And this is our, let me draw this so you can get a fix on it. We're looking at this area essentially right in here. This is the area that we're looking at, and we want to see blues and we want to see whites if we want to see tropical development. Not that we want to see tropical development, but if we're expecting to see it. And look what happens as we get on out into next week. Look at that. Boy, we start to get into a favorable regime from a wind shear standpoint. That's good. Ocean temperatures are warming up. That's good. But we're battling dry air. But look at this. We've got a good period next week where, at least according to the European ensembles, we could really see a favorable Atlantic emerge. We've got the MJO working toward phase two as we go out toward mid-month. So we've got a period, it looks like, for the next couple of weeks where we may actually see shear become more favorable for development. So any wave that comes off, we're going to have to watch it. We're still battling dry air and maybe a little bit of sinking air at that time. But in any event, that is looking fairly favorable from a shear standpoint. This is the European operational. And of course, it's dangerous to look at operational models way out in time. You want to really rely on ensembles as you get on out past day 3 to 5, something like that. But if we look here, we're seeing a couple of low pressures form along a frontal boundary and get on out into the Atlantic off the coast. These are non-tropical low pressure systems, folks. But looking in the main development region, we see plenty of wave activity coming off of Africa, a couple of pieces of energy hung up off the southeast coast, and that front's going to stall. The front that's going to bring us that cool weather is going to stall here off the southeast coast, and that's part of number two that we're going to get into here in a minute. But number one is the tropics, and you see these little areas of low pressure, very, very weak, not really doing much. This is out through Sunday, and we get on into Monday and Tuesday of next week, and we flow this along, see these little waves coming off. Nothing going on at all really of note, just these little weak areas of low pressure along that frontal boundary zipping on off into the Atlantic. But look what happens as we start to get on out toward next weekend. We've got this wave moving north of the islands. Waves that move north of the islands rarely impact the United States, but look what the European does with it. It starts to blow it up here. Got favorable shear, got fairly favorable water temperatures, pretty favorable water temperatures actually, and it starts to develop a little system out here now. This is not going to be a threat to land, but maybe Bermuda, but essentially we've got a little piece of activity according to the European that we need to keep an eye on out here. Eventually it recurves it, takes it off, and you still have waves coming off. Nothing else of note at all according to the European model. If we look at the ensembles, here are the European ensembles. And this is the probability of tropical cyclone formation. And it's got this big area up here, but again, this is going to be a low pressure that is very weak that moves on out into the Atlantic. It's a non-tropical low, and the European ensembles are showing that as a probability of development. So just ignore that for now. But look at this. not much activity going on according to European ensembles out here in the heart of the Atlantic. So we're still not seeing very high probabilities. The other day we saw high probabilities and nothing happened. Now we're seeing low probabilities, so continue to expect not much to happen here over the next couple of weeks. So lid on the Atlantic, and there is the National Hurricane Center's assessment of it as well over the next 7 days. So we're not really seeing any favorable. The conditions are becoming more favorable, generally speaking, but we're not seeing any waves take advantage of that, anything that will impact the United States over the next week or two as we get on into later into August, and that MJO, Madden-Julian oscillation, moves into a favorable position and helps to change some of the tropical forcing around. We may see things improve in the Atlantic over the next, the last half of August or so. Plus, we're moving into peak tropical season climate at that point. So that's your tropical update. We've got item number 2 right on the docket next after our weather IQ question. All right, we're continuing that tropical theme. Since we're talking about the tropics so much lately, we're going to continue with our tropical questions series, and here it is. This is something we all should know. If we don't know it, then we will by the end of this show. What category on the Saffir-Simpson scale represents a major hurricane? Remember, it goes from 1 to 5. A, Category 3 or higher. B, Category 2 or higher. C, Class 1. Or D, tropical storm. All right, if you know the answer, type it in the comments. If you don't, just wait till the end of the show and I will let you know what the answer is, and you can send all your friends over to Cold Rain's Weather World and tell them all the cool stuff you're learning here. Now we're going to get into item number 2 that you need to be aware of as we get into the weekend. As you may have gathered, item number 2 is severe weather. Yes, we need to be aware of what's happening with severe weather because it still is out there, although it is becoming more limited in its coverage. We've seen quite a bit of severe weather up and down the eastern seaboard as that front has slid south, and we've seen a few instances of it out here in the lee of the Rockies today, and we've got another potential out here anywhere from central Montana down into northeastern New Mexico, with the center really in the panhandle of Nebraska up here in northeastern Colorado and northwestern South Dakota around Cedar Rapids up here. So that's what we're looking at, folks. And so the main threat is wind, but there is a tornado threat with a little backing of winds. We've got steep lapse rates out here, and so as instability fires up, we're going to see potentially hail, high winds, and a little bit of a tornado threat too, but hail is the main threat. Over here in the southeast, not looking at a lot of severe weather, but certainly could see a few wet microbursts with precipitation loading. Still got a tropical air mass down here, and thunderstorms are going to wring that out and drop some microburst along the way. Tomorrow, same sort of story, same sort of location, maybe just a little bit farther south here in eastern Colorado and western Kansas, but essentially anywhere in this corridor from southeastern Montana all the way down to the panhandle of Texas. We could see a couple of severe weather reports out of this. Again, tornadoes possible where you've got a little bit of backing of winds there along that boundary. It's a boundary that's set up, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Wind and hail is also possibility, very slight risk or a marginal risk, but just a small area down here in South Georgia tomorrow too. Anywhere in this green, we could see general shower and thunderstorm activity, but look at this. It has shrunk considerably from what we have been seeing over the course of the last several weeks. All that severe weather across the northern tier, this tropical air mass is getting pushed south and squeezed out big time. This is this morning. If we go out into this afternoon, we see where our instability thunderstorm fuel is. Look at that. You can tell where this boundary is, can't you, folks? Look at this. All the way from Montana right along here is where our boundary is. Out ahead of that is where the warm tropical moist air is. That's where our instability is. That's where we find showers and thunderstorms to go through the afternoon. You see what happens. It shoots up here in the plains and back into the southeast, diminishes overnight a bit, and then comes back tomorrow a little bit farther east, and the corridor of this is a little bit farther south as well, so that's why we see the severe weather threat a little bit farther south tomorrow here in Nebraska, Kansas, and Colorado, down to the panhandle of Texas. Across the south, we've got instability, but not a lot of mechanisms to create shear and things like that that would organize any thunderstorm activity. We go into Saturday afternoon, still see instability out here in the plains, so that's where our severe weather threat's going to be. And boy, it's getting really shunted out into the Gulf of cold rain down here as we get on out into Sunday. And so really looking only on Sunday, we're looking here in the plains, central plains, is where we're going to find severe weather as we get into the afternoon. And that's about it. General shower and thunderstorm activity still possible across the Gulf. If you've got beach plans, southeast beaches into the Gulf is going to be, one of those touch and go kind of situations, folks. But we get on into this afternoon. We're going to see a few supercells fire up here in Colorado, up in South Dakota. Those will present a tornado threat, and then things could merge into clusters. Still showers and thunderstorms, potentially a couple of microbursts here in the southeast along that boundary, and then out west. A new trough is working in into the Pacific Northwest. Keep you guys cool and a little bit unsettled, cloudy with a chance of showers up there as well. And we get on into the nighttime hours. Nothing big, no big line segments, no big derechos or anything like that coming through. Things will kind of die down a little bit. Got a little bit of spin up here in South Dakota. Pick up Saturday afternoon. There we go. That boundary, the frontal zone is all the way down here to the Gulf, and that's where the focus for showers and thunderstorms may get a little bit of a piece of energy coming into northern Maine up here and clip you guys with some showers. But over here Sunday, as we get on into Saturday evening and overnight Sunday, things kind of settle down a little bit. Maybe have a little MCS work through the panhandle of Texas through the late evening hours and eventually die off, but it'll bring you guys some rain down there. And as we get on into Sunday afternoon, wash, rinse, repeat. A little bit farther east here in Nebraska and in South Dakota and Kansas, we see those thunderstorms firing off. Could see a few supercells merge into a couple of clusters. Nothing too widespread, though. The bulk of the rain activity is down toward the Gulf, and that'll diminish. Maybe this one holds together over the night Sunday. We'll watch that as we go through the next couple of days. But that's your severe weather threat. Again, bottom line, severe weather threat decreasing in coverage, and just kind of confined out here in earnest here into the central plains. As we get on into next week, there's some divergences in the pattern in terms of where little troughs might move that would change the focus of severe weather. We may see some northwest flow events and things like that, but that's where we'll get into that when we have time to do so and we get a little closer to those periods. But that's it, folks. Now, that's the second thing. The third thing that we need to know is coming right up. Now, August still has some problems that we got to deal with. We're going to get into those here in just a second, but I want to show you the third thing that we need to be paying attention to, and that is the weather this weekend, folks. We've talked about the severe weather, we've talked about the tropics, and we've got to talk about this front as it rolls through the south. Here it is. It's showing up very well along our in the satellite picture. We've got southern New England with cloud cover all the way down back through the Tennessee Valley into roughly South Texas. We've got some clouds rolling through North Texas as well, and a batch of rain that extends all the way, in spots at least, all the way up to just north of Great Falls, Montana, down through southwestern North Dakota. I said Cedar Rapids earlier. Of course, I meant to say Rapid City. I don't know why I do that. It just comes out. Rapid City, South Dakota. We've got a few thunderstorms working through there toward Lincoln, Nebraska, back in toward the panhandle of Texas down here, just north of Lubbock and east of Roswell in New Mexico. But that's where, a couple of the rumbles of thunder near Wilmington as well. That's what's going on this morning. But look at this, boy. These wildfires just keep burning and burning and burning, sending smoke all the way down into the United States. That is going to pivot around the high pressure zone that's here. Eventually, this smoke changes trajectory. Instead of coming straight down like this, we've got a ridge in Canada that's going to be more positively tilted over time and send some of this off into eastern Canada. But look, it's just, boy, it's really just rotating around that high pressure and inundating the northern plains, Midwest, and into the Great Lakes today. And some of that will blow into the northeast with time. As a matter of fact, here is the air quality map, and I'll go onto a better display. Sorry, I had this set up and I moved it around. There it is. Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, all the way down into Illinois and Iowa. Bad air quality this morning. Reds everywhere, so stay indoors if you're very sensitive to that. Dallas, Denver, and Los Angeles looking at not so great air quality either. Here are the air quality maps, even back in here into eastern Nebraska. We're looking at bad air quality. Look at those heat advisories, though. They have been chopped all the way down into the far southeast portion of the country, including Florida. So that heat and humidity is dropping, setting us up for a spectacular weekend. Various flood watches here in New Mexico, up in Montana, and up over into Washington, north of Spokane, and extreme heat watches are up and warnings are up here for portions of the desert Southwest, with temperatures rolling up into the 100 and teens, and some red flag warnings for windy conditions. There's our frontal system, low pressure, high pressure surface map kind of deal here, folks. We've got that boundary there. It sits. This cold front is moving south slowly, and the extension of that extends all the way back up lee of the Rockies into northern Montana. That's where the focus for showers and thunderstorms is, along and around that boundary. And as it continues to sink south, we'll see it take the showers and thunderstorms with it. Looking at the upper air image, which we see all the time on this channel, and it's important to know what's going on in the mid-levels. This is mid-level height anomalies, so we can understand what happens at the surface and what to expect as we go out into time. There's that ridge up in Canada. See that right here? Now it's kind of coming out. This is where the winds and mid-levels are blowing, so hopefully it'll blow some of that smoke that's getting up high in the atmosphere. We'll blow it that way and set up a situation at the surface where we can translate some of that off as well. Big low pressure that's cut off up here in the Gulf of Alaska, helping to pump this ridge up, but it's also bringing pieces of energy around it into the northwest. And you can see a little ridge here in the middle of the country, troughing in the east along that frontal zone. And as we go on out through the weekend, folks, as we get on out into Saturday, tomorrow, ridge rotates. The ridge axis flattens out here in the southwest and rotates down, and we kind of get this flat flow with the troughing signal over the east. That is going to keep it cooler than normal in the east and also unsettled with time. That ridge continues to pump back up, and eventually, as we get way on out into next week, this is going to migrate to central Canada and eventually eastern Canada. That's going to keep the smoke hopefully at bay for a little bit up here in the north, and it's going to allow ridging to pop up here in the west and warm you guys up, and little troughs continue to move through the plains and into the south and keep a ridge, or a trough rather, in the east. That will keep it unsettled as we get into next week, particularly in the southeast. And you can kind of see that signal here this weekend as we go on out into this afternoon. There's your showers and thunderstorms that we saw earlier firing up in the plains along the southeast as well, along that boundary. Look at that high pressure, almost a 1030 high. We've got winds coming in clockwise around that out of the north. That's good for cooler and drier conditions. It moves east over time. Get a few showers popping tomorrow afternoon into the evening, of course, across the southeast as well. New England, Northeast, Great Lakes, Midwest, under cooler and drier conditions all the way into the southeast even. Got a couple of pieces of energy that may try to spark some showers and thunderstorms here in the mid-south, but other than that, wedging down the east of the Appalachians will keep it cool as we get on into Sunday evening and through Monday. That's your weekend forecast, folks, and we start to see little troughing as we saw on the mid-level map. We see that helping to increase the chance for rain as we get into early next week. This is the rain footprint through the weekend, where we're most likely to see rain. A few showers up here in southern New England down to the mid-Atlantic, into the southeast, where we find the bulk of the rain, 1 to 2 inches, maybe even 3 or 4 if thunderstorms train over the same areas. They're going to be very tropical. And then up here in the central plains up into the northwest too, where little systems are working in up there, and that boundary is sitting stationary. That's what we're looking for as we go through the course of the weekend. Temperature wise, boy oh boy, it is going to feel nice. It already does for much of the basically 2/3 of the country here, or a third. This is probably more like a third, but I'm looking at anywhere from Montana east and above the southeast, really. That's where we're looking at 70s and temperatures in the 60s even up here in the mountains. But we get back down here into the southeast. That's where the muggy area is, the boundary right along the North Carolina area. And so we're going to see 80s today for the highs, 90s in the southeast, 90s in Texas, up to 100 here, hundreds in the desert southwest, and not too bad up in the Pacific Northwest. Still a little bit warm. That'll cool off as we go on out in time, and little troughs work in. But there's that cool fall-like weather, dry and cool and feeling very nice up here in the northern third of the country, and then back into the southeast and into the southern central plains. Really still warm, hanging on to those 90s and tropical air mass. And then back into the desert southwest, of course, it's dry, but it's hot. It's still warm in the interior northeast on Saturday. But as we get on out into Sunday, things continue to remain pleasant here and not quite fall-like as much, but seeing some 80s creep back in, but still very, very nice compared to what it's been. It's going to be dry, and we got that tropical air mass out of here. That's the main thing. And really warm across the south. Still southern tier is warm, and as we get on out into Monday, just so you can see a couple more maps here, starts to warm back up in the plains, but we're still hanging on to 70s and 80s all throughout the eastern portion of the country. So we'll keep watch on that. But anyway, it's looking good, folks, for the eastern portion of the country this weekend. There's the drought monitoring. Here's one of the problems that we've got. We've got a big drought going on here out west for the western third, western fourth of the country. A few pockets starting to show up in the south. We've had a lot of hit and miss thunderstorms. A lot of areas have missed on those, and southern Florida and parts of the southeast have missed up here around the lakes as well. We're seeing drought creep in, but really we've got a bad drought signal developing out here in the west. It's been ongoing for a while. Unfortunately, we're not seeing a lot of relief in sight from a precipitation standpoint. This is the temperature forecast over the next 10 days, okay? This shows you where this is an average temperature anomaly over the next 10 days. So we're going to see plenty of cool anomalies. This is relative to normal, of course. That's what an anomaly is. In these areas here, this is where we're looking at temperatures below normal over the next 10 days. Now we roll this along in 10-day increments as we get on out days 2 through 15, or 2 through 11, 3 through 12, eventually 5 through 15. We start to see this warm back up a little bit. As we get on out into mid-August, we're going to see a pattern take hold where we may get a tropical air mass back in place, start to warm things up. But look over the southeast, okay? Still got cool anomalies hanging on according to the European ensembles. The GFS agrees with this, so for the next couple of weeks it could be fairly pleasant relative to normal in the southeast. But yeah, this isn't going to help the drought problem. It may help it in spots in the southeast because this is where the major focus of rain is going to be over the next couple of weeks. And again, the GFS ensembles kind of agree with this. Little footprint up here where systems are moving along in the flow along the northern tier, but Great Lakes not getting any help, down into the desert southwest and the west coast not getting any help and relief. That is a big problem. It's a developing problem. It's going to continue. We may continue to see a dry signal as we head on into the fall, folks, but that is what's going on. And finally, we've got one more problem to talk about because something is diminishing quickly and we're going to have to take a look at it. It's going to be gone pretty soon. All right, we wrap things up with our geological and space weather update, folks, and nothing really going on, although you see the coronagraph exploding here. That's really nothing to worry about, folks. If it was, we would be running for the hills and not recording a video, but nothing going on. A little trans-equatorial coronal hole, so KP index looking good. Nothing coming off the coronagraph there. Sunspot still watching 4165. It's fairly large. Not really gaining complexity yet, but we're going to watch it. It's still got a good ways to go before it gets in toward us. Volcanic activity is nil. Spur, Kilauea, and Great Sitkin are the only things that we're monitoring, and no changes in any of the advisories there. Not much going on in the United States or around the world for that matter after that big Russian shake and a few aftershocks, a couple of little shakes here in the States, but nothing to write home about. Moon phase, we're at 50% now, waxing gibbous on our way to a full moon, August the 9th. Remember the Perseids peak, the 12th or the 13th, I believe, and so you may be able to see them if you can avoid light pollution from the moon, but it's going to be a full moon, so there's going to be a lot of that. But what is going and gone is daylight, folks. We are burning daylight pretty rapidly now, and look at this. So the moon and sunrise and sunset, we are here, and we are chopping it down quickly as we get on in through August. As a matter of fact, check this out. This is what we lose as we go through the end of the month. 90 minutes all the way from the northern tier to 40 minutes down south, almost an hour where cold rain lives. So we are losing daylight. An hour of your daylight hours is almost gone, and it will be gone by the time August gets here. And I know many of you do not like that. Many of you like longer daylight hours. I'm in the minority, so this is not a problem for me, but August presents this problem for many of you. And I like shorter days. It reminds me of Christmas and holidays and spending time with family and winter nights with snow on the ground. That's what I like, and I know many of you do not like that. You like summer and hot and longer days. Anyway, folks, that's what's happening here with the weather today, and now you know all about the weather, except for maybe the answer to today's weather IQ question, which I bet most of you know this, but if you don't, you're going to know it now. What category on the Saffir-Simpson scale represents a major hurricane? Category 3 or higher, 2 or higher, class 1, or tropical storm? And the answer is a category 3 storm or higher, winds of 115 miles per hour or higher. And there you have it, folks. So that is the show for today. I hope you've enjoyed it and have learned a few things along the way. I've enjoyed being with you. Thank you for being here. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, please hit subscribe and give us a like and leave a comment. If I can pray over anything for you, please let me know what it is. Be in prayer for us today. We've got to travel to my grandmother's funeral, and so be in prayer for the family for that. Anyway, folks, I'll be back tomorrow with another update. Cold Drizzle will be back with me this weekend, and we'll shoot a quick short reel as well. So that's it. Take care. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you back tomorrow.